Have you ever met someone and thought, they don't look that important? Maybe they were quiet. Maybe they dressed simply. Maybe they didn't announce their achievements, their connections, their power, or their influence. And because they didn't look intimidating, someone decided to disrespect them. Big mistake. Because one of the most dangerous assumptions you can make in life is believing that a person is harmless just because they are humble. Some people don't need to raise their voice because their reputation already speaks for them. Some people don't need to threaten you because one phone call from them can change everything. Some people don't need to prove they are powerful because they already know who they are. And the people who truly carry weight are often the ones who move the quietest. That is why you must know who you're dealing with. Not because you should fear everyone. Not because you should treat people nicely only when they have status. But because respect should be your default setting. You never know who is standing in front of you. That cleaner you ignored might be the person who has worked in that building for 20 years and knows every executive by name. That assistant you treated badly might be the person who controls access to the decision maker you desperately need. That quiet employee in the corner might be the one the entire team trusts more than the boss. That stranger you embarrassed in public might have the influence, patience, and memory to make sure you regret it later. And that person you thought was nobody might be exactly the wrong person to offend. Life has a strange way of testing character. It often gives you power over someone before it reveals their importance. You may meet them when they need your help. You may meet them when they are dressed casually. You may meet them when they are not in their office, not wearing their title, not surrounded by people who recognize them. And in that moment, your true character comes out. Do you respect people only when you know what they can do for you? Or do you respect people because that is who you are? Because understand this, how you treat people when you think they have nothing to offer you says more about you than any resume, title, or achievement ever could. Anyone can be polite to the CEO. Anyone can smile at the investor. Anyone can show respect to the person holding the microphone, the contract, or the check. But how do you treat the receptionist? How do you speak to the waiter? How do you deal with the driver, the cleaner, the intern, the security guard, the person who cannot immediately benefit you? That is where your character is revealed. And sometimes, that is where your future is decided. There are people in this world who look ordinary but carry extraordinary influence. There are people who don't speak much, but when they do, important people listen. There are people who don't argue in the moment, but they remember exactly how you made them feel. And there are people who may forgive your mistake, but they will never give you access again. You don't always get a warning before you offend the wrong person. Sometimes the consequence is silent. The opportunity disappears. The call never comes. The recommendation is never made. The door quietly closes, and you may never even know who closed it. That is why arrogance is so expensive. Arrogance makes you careless. It convinces you that you can judge people quickly. It makes you believe that if someone is not showing power, they must not have any. But real power does not always perform. Real power does not always wear designer clothes. Real power does not always walk into the room demanding attention. Sometimes real power walks in quietly, listens carefully, says very little, and takes note of everything. And if you are wise, you will treat every person with enough respect that you never have to wonder later, did I offend someone I shouldn't have? Now, this does not mean you should be fake. It does not mean you should flatter everyone. It does not mean you should live in fear, walking on eggshells, trying to please every person you meet. No, it means you should be decent, be respectful, be aware, be careful with your words, especially when your emotions are high. Because anger can make you say things that pride will not let you apologize for quickly enough. And sometimes, by the time you realize who you were talking to, the damage is already done. Many people destroy valuable relationships not because they are evil, but because they are careless. They interrupt the wrong person. They mock the wrong person. They underestimate the wrong person. They talk down to the wrong person. They expose someone publicly when a private conversation would have solved everything. They confuse kindness with weakness. They confuse silence with fear. They confuse humility with lack of power. And then they are shocked when that quiet person responds, not with shouting, but with action. Because the most dangerous people are not always the loudest ones. The loud person may threaten you in the moment and forget about it tomorrow. But the quiet person may step back, observe, and make one decision that changes your path. That is why emotional control is not just a virtue. It is protection. When you control your tongue, you protect your future. When you control your pride, you protect your relationships. When you control your reactions, you protect your reputation. You do not have to win every argument. You do not have to correct every insult. You do not have to prove your intelligence in every room. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is pause, breathe, and choose your response carefully. Because once words leave your mouth, they no longer belong to you. They belong to the memory of the person who heard them. And some people have long memories. They may not respond today. They may not show offense. They may even smile and say, "It's fine." But "it's fine" does not always mean it is forgotten. Sometimes it means, "Now I know who you are." That is a sentence you should never cause someone powerful, respected, or well-connected to say about you. But again, this lesson is not about kissing up to powerful people. It is about living with such consistent respect that you don't need to know who is powerful. You treat everyone well because you understand that every person has dignity. Every person has a story. Every person has a network. Every person has a role. And every person has the ability, in some way, to affect your life. The world is more connected than you think. The person you dismiss today may be connected to the person you need tomorrow. The employee you humiliate today may become the manager who interviews you in 5 years. The classmate you laugh at today may become the business owner you want to partner with later. The neighbor you disrespect today may become the person whose testimony, opinion, or recommendation matters at the worst possible time. Life moves in circles. People rise. Roles change. Power shifts. And the person you stepped on while climbing may be the person standing at the door when you need to enter. So move with humility. Speak with care. Disagree without disrespect. Set boundaries without cruelty. Be confident without being condescending. Be honest without being humiliating. You can be strong and still be respectful. You can be direct and still be professional. You can say no without being insulting. You can correct someone without crushing them. That is maturity. Because influence is not only about what you can do, it is also about what people are willing to do for you when your name comes up. Your reputation is built in small moments. A greeting, a tone, a response, a thank you, an apology. A moment of patience when you could have been rude. A moment of restraint when you could have embarrassed someone. These small moments travel ahead of you. Before you enter rooms, your reputation often arrives first. People talk. They say, "She's difficult." They say, "He's arrogant." They say, "Be careful with that one." Or they say, "She's respectful. He's solid." They treat people well. You can trust them. And sometimes, that quiet reputation is the difference between being invited in and being kept out. So before you speak harshly, ask yourself, is this worth the cost? Before you embarrass someone, ask, what if I need this person one day? Before you dismiss someone, ask, what do I not know about them? Before you let pride take control, ask, am I about to create an enemy for no good reason? Because not every enemy announces themselves. Some enemies smile politely, step away, and simply make sure you never get close enough to benefit from them again. And sometimes, that is worse than confrontation. The truth is, you cannot always know who you're dealing with. You cannot always know someone's background, relationships, influence, experience, or future potential. So the safest and wisest strategy is simple. Treat everyone with respect. Not weakness, not fear. Respect. Respect keeps doors open. Respect protects your name. Respect prevents unnecessary conflict. Respect gives people no reason to move against you. And respect makes you the kind of person people want to support, even when you are not in the room. Because in life, you will need people. No matter how talented you are, no one succeeds completely alone. Someone will mention your name. Someone will recommend you. Someone will defend you. Someone will open a door. Someone will give you a chance. And many times, that someone will be a person you once had the opportunity to treat badly, but chose to treat well. That is why kindness is never wasted. Courtesy is never wasted. Humility is never wasted. You may not see the reward immediately, but character has a way of compounding over time. The way you treat people becomes the environment you create around yourself. If you treat people with arrogance, you create resistance. If you treat people with respect, you create goodwill. And goodwill is one of the most underrated forms of power in the world. So the next time you are tempted to belittle someone, pause. The next time you feel like showing someone they are beneath you, pause. The next time you want to use your position to make someone feel small, pause. Because you may not know who they are. You may not know who they know. You may not know what role they will play in your story later. And you may not know how costly that one careless moment can become. Know who you're dealing with. And when you don't know, act wisely. Speak with respect. Move with humility. Control your ego. Protect your reputation. Because the wrong person to offend is not always the most obvious person in the room. Sometimes it is the quiet one, the patient one, the humble one, the one who does not need to prove anything. And by the time you realize who they are, it may already be too late. So let respect be your habit. Let humility be your protection. Let emotional control be your strength. And let your character be so consistent that you never have to fear who is standing in front of you. Because when you treat everyone with dignity, you never have to worry about offending the wrong person.